Hi, welcome to the Passionate Spinner podcast. My name is Tracy. You can find me as Schnüffeltier on Ravelry and on Instagram. I do have a Ravelry group, but I'm also working on setting up a Discord server. I have absolutely no idea what it is and how it works yet, but I'm trying to create a community for the podcast outside of Ravelry that we can use to share what we're all working on and how things are going. But my technical knowledge is very limited, and my nephews showed me how it works and what it is, and I still have no clue. But I am working on setting up something outside of Ravelry for us to communicate easily, hopefully. But yeah, this is, I think, 155, episode 155. I said that last time, but I think I was off. I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. I am here today to talk about socks because I did finish some of them. These are 13 socks for 12 pairs because I have a full pair in here as well. And I thought it would be fun to talk to you about the different yarns, the different needles I'm using, and do kind of a review-ish thing about the yarn and the needles. So let's get started. I'm just going to work my way down. And just so you know, I do not have enough sock blockers to fit these socks on. So some of these socks, like this one, this on a child-sized sock blocker, because I just didn't have enough, because, you know, who needs a million sock blockers in the same size if you're not a yarn dyer wanting to display your stuff? So I just didn't have enough. So this is on a child-sized blocker, but who cares? This is Opal sock yarn, one of my absolute favorites. This is what it looks like. I did contrast heels and toes, and I have everything here. So this yarn, I have several Opal Abo or, Opal labels in here. They're all from the yarn club that they have. So I'm just going to show you one of the newer ones. They look like this. So this is the main yarn. It's Opal Abo yarn. And the heels and toes are Dropsfarbe. So again, this is what the sock looks like. This is for me. So this is a size German 38. I knit all of my socks top down on DPNs, all of them, US size 2. That's a 2.75 millimeter needle. All of them are knit with a 20 round cuff. Then the leg is, I don't know, around 18 centimeters. What's that? 9 inches? No, not 9, 7 inches. Then I have a traditional slip stitch heel flap and gusset construction. Then the foot, however long it needs to be, and the toe. And I just filmed a tutorial for my Patreon on how I close toes on my socks. If you're interested in that, you can check that out. So back to my little review of this. So, Opal sock yarn, one of my absolute favorites. This is the yarn. This colorway is the perfect colorway for me, don't you think? With the different shades of brown and gray, and I think it is so pretty. 10 out of 10 for this. Let's do a 10 grade, okay? For the yarns. This is Dropsfarbe. And it's okay, but it's not an opal, so I would say this is like a 6. And for this pair, I am using Knit Picks needles, actual Knit Picks ones. And I don't know what the color of these needles is called, but they are wooden DPNs and they are perfect. So let's do 10 scales for all of these. These needles, 10 out of 10. They are perfect. So that's the first sock. And I'm really happy with how it's turning out. So that is that. I have no idea where to put things now, but I'll find out. So next up, very similar looking because it's almost the exact same yarn combination. It's another Opal Abo skein. It looks like this. And this time I have paired it with Regia sock yarn. So 2 German commercial sock yarns knit together. Again, the Opal Abo just doesn't tell you anything. So far, all of these things have been a normal standard 75-25 sock yarn. And the Regia 4-ply. And so again, Opal, 10 out of 10. Regia, I'm gonna say like an 8 out of 10. It's way better quality than the Dropsfabel. And the needles in here are Clover Chiaogu. They're Chiaogu needles. Again, DPNs, bamboo. And as you can see, if I hold them all together at the bottom, they are not together anymore at the top. So they have started to bend quite a bit over the years, because I've knit a lot of socks on these. Can you see? There's a definite difference here. But these needles are still really good. So I would say they're like an 8 on my 10 scale. So they go back in my yarn skein. And this sock is also for me, so it's a German size 38. All of my socks, except for one, are knit with 64 stitches because I'm a very tight knitter. So this is my gauge on a US 2. And I'm getting between 32 and 34 stitches for 10 inches. So it's a perfectly normal sock gauge. So this is pair number 2. Next up, Opal sock yarn. So I'm not going to show you the label again because, you know, it's been the same label over and over. This is the skein and there's some fuzz on it. Take it off. So here's my skein of yarn. This is the finished sock. This is a German size 43, 44. It is like a 43. It's a gift for a friend. This sock is knit with 72 stitches because it's for a man and, you know, they tend to have bigger feet. And the needles in here are clover needles. And let me take one clover and one of the Chiaogus so I can show you the difference. So first of all, the clover needle is a tiny bit longer, which I actually realized when knitting that this tiny bit, which is like 8 millimeters, it's not even a centimeter, it really makes a difference. You can feel the difference in your hands. But what's the real difference here is the tips. And I'm not sure if you will be able to see that, but, oh, come on. The clover needle is super blunt. There is no tip here. You see when I hold them like this on my cheek? This one here has a tip. This one here, not really. I don't mind that for sock knitting. I actually quite like it. But I know that there's a lot of people out there who could not knit socks with these because they're tipless. You know, there's no point on these needles. So for me, they're an 8. The yarn, still a 10. It's Opal sock yarn, you know, it's perfect. It's so nice to work with, and the colors are great, and they also hold up forever. So a good combination of things. Then I have 2 more Opal sock yarns because they're all grouped together right now. So this here, another Opal sock yarn. This time it looks like this. I think it's the same as the brown one, you know, from the same collection, just in 2 different colors. Can you say that that's the same thing? Definitely the same. So this one here is a gift. It's a German size 42. I didn't do contrast heels and toes because I just felt like it didn't need it. And it looks like that. And the needles in here are, again, clovers, not Chiaogus. They're clovers again. So 10 for the yarn, 8 for the needles. Really, really pretty. I mean, this is just gorgeous. Look at it. It's so nice. And the last Opal I have on my needles is another size 42. It's another gift. The yarn is this one here. I have had this forever. I mean, 10 years, probably, like a long time. So this is a 42 again. I am not going to wind off yarn to make these match. You know, I'm just going to start the second sock right away. And The needles in here are ChiaoGoo needles. So what did I give the ChiaoGoos? A 9, 10? I don't remember. They're great needles though. So yeah, it's a 9 or a 10. I'm not quite sure what I said, but they are great. I know that the ones that bend, I probably said they're like a 6 or a 7, but I mean, I am at a very tight knitter and these are wooden needles. So of course they start to bend over time. And now my absolute favorite of these is this one. This is my own hand spun. I spun this a few years ago. It is from a Shadowin Fiber Arts top. That is a 80 merino 20 silk. It was a Harry Potter club. The colorway is called Chinese Fireball. And in here, I have Holz und Stein needles. And I'm not sure if you will be able to read this ever, because I don't think it will focus on it. But it doesn't matter. These are Holz und Stein needles. They are armadillo wood, I think. I'm not sure, because I just don't know. But this is, it's luxury. It's so much luxury on my needles, and while working with it, you know, knitting hand-spun socks is the best thing ever. Oh, the only thing that will be better than knitting them is wearing them. So these are definitely for me. German size 38, US 2 needles. The yarn turned out really nice and thin. You know, this is what it looks like for a hand-spun sock. I think that is really good. So this is my absolute favorite out of all of the socks I have on the needles, because it's hand-spun, and knitting with hand-spun is just so special, and just, I love these so much. So you will never receive hand-spun socks from me ever. No matter how much I love you. It's not gonna happen. They will all be for me. Then let's go into the hand-dyed territory next. So the next sock I have is this one here. And the yarn is from Vicky Vieira. It's called My Precious. It's 100% superwash merino yarn. This is her label. This is my sock. And I'm using Lücke needles to knit this. So for the hand spun sock on the Holz und Stein needles, 10 and 10 and 10, just 10s all over. For this one here, the yarn I really like. It's okay. It's quite nice to knit with. So I'm gonna say it's a 9. It's not as wonderful as Opal, just because it feels different in my hands. The needles are great, so they're a 9 as well. It's a really good combination. And for the contrast heel, I just used a yarn that I had from the next pair of socks that I'm going to show you, because I just thought it worked so well with the yarn. But I didn't want to do cuffs and toes, so I just did the heel, and I really like how it's turning out. So this is also for me, and that makes it a size 38. I'm starting to run out of space here. So next up is this sock here. This is mystery yarn that I got from my mother when she decided to de-stash a lot of her things. And I have no idea who it is by. I'm guessing it's a normal 75-25 sock yarn, because it feels like that. It's a bit thinner than Opal yarn is, so it's automatically not a 10. I'm gonna say this yarn is an 8, maybe a 7. And for the contrast, heels and toes, I'm using this one, and this is Red Heart sock yarn, and that's like a 6. It's not a wonderful yarn. It's okay for what I wanted to do, but it's not the best yarn ever. But the green just fit so well with this yarn. It just matched wonderfully. And I'm really happy that I decided to knit this sock this way, because I feel like if it had only been this bright turquoisey blue, it would have been too much almost. So it really tones it down a bit. So needles in here are ChiaoGoo again. So I don't know what I gave those. 7 probably. It depends on how bent they are, how wonderful they are to work with. But yeah, this is really nice. It's another sock for me, because why not? And it's turning out really nice, I think. So we're getting there. We're almost done. Next up, I have a self-striping, and this also in a way too small blocker, but it just happened to be that way. So this one here is Eden Yarns, and it is a self-striping, and it is a 75-25. The colorway is called Springs. And I started to knit this, and then I decided to just put in a contrast heel, and I had this leftover red. I have no idea what it is. It's a sock yarn, it's red. It's not the exact same red as the self-striping yarn has, but I feel like it still really matches, you know? I do like how it's looking. This is another sock for me. And yeah, I'm really happy with this, you know? I think this red really goes with this. So the sock yarn itself comes in a skein wound like this. And I would say this an 8 because it's a bit thin, which I'm not the biggest fan of. The stripes are really nice. It's beautifully dyed. And the needles in here are Holz und Stein, and they are Veilchenholz, and I think that's tulip wood, but I'm not sure. And they are perfect. So the yarn is an 8 or 9. The needles are 10. Holz und Stein needles are the best needles. They are a German needle manufacturer, and they do not have a website that's functional, which is weird. But I got my needles from them, mainly from festivals. So this one here, gorgeous. And now I have two more single socks, and then a finished pair. Okay, this one here is another German hand-dyed yarn. This is size 40. It's a gift for a friend. The yarn is a 75-25. But it is a super soft sock yarn. So this is really, really nice. It's a 10, I would say. It's because it's so nice and soft. And the yarn dyer is called Ulis Wollzauber. Not sure if you can see that. I'm not sure how she sells her yarn. I had someone in my knit group who always brought, or one of my knit groups who brought her yarns in and sold them for her. But I think otherwise she just sells her stuff on a Facebook group. But this yarn here is called Allgäuer Bergwiese, which means like alpine, or, you know, Allgäu is the region where I live in. Wildflower field, something like that. I really like how it's knitting up. Like I said, this is a gift for a friend. The yarn is a 10. It's amazing. The needles are Xiaogu needles, and they're unbent. So they're a 7 or an 8. And this is really a really nice sock. Now, we come to my least favorite yarn out of this, which probably is going to be sacrilege, but it is what it is. So this here is another sock that's going to be a gift. It's a size 39-40. It's for a friend. And the yarn is Wollenwein Yarns. It's the Footsie base in the Xelha colorway. I have no idea what that means. It's an 80-20 merino nylon. And I think that is where my problems start and end. It is this spiral plied or pearly plied yarn. And I usually love knitting with these. But this one here, I just don't like. So out of all of the socks I've showed to you so far, this is my least favorite to work with. And so I'm gonna put it at a 5. I don't know why. I'm not sure what it is, but this just doesn't feel nice to work with in my hands. The needles in here are rosewood needles from Holz und Stein, and they are perfect. So yeah, this is this pair here. And the last pair is the pair that's finished. And I had 2 50-gram skeins of this. Now let me find the label because I brought it. It's here. It is Eden Yarns again. It is a gradient. The colorway is called Harper, like in Harper Lee, for instance, you know, Harper. This is my leftovers. And these are the socks. These are for me, again, size 38. They look like this. I have to weave in the ends, so they are completely done, and then take pictures, but I really like how they turned out. I debated on how to do the heel, you know, if I just should knit them all the way down but then I thought I might have a very stark line here, like I do have on my handspun socks. You know, this line here is very abrupt. And I didn't want to have that for these gradient socks. So what I did for the toe, for the heel, I just knitted from the inside. So this here is what you should have ended up with your gradient with. And I put that for the toes and then continued my sock down. And I'm really happy I managed to get into the purple. They're really pretty socks. I'm going to say that first. I would have preferred it if this portion would have been a bit shorter, because it starts out with this really dark teal and then it goes into a not so dark teal to the minty green and then to the purple. But this not so dark teal is almost double the length of the minty green and the dark one and the purple ultimately. If that had been a bit shorter, I would have gotten more of the gradient into the sock. But I mean, that's nitpicking, isn't it? This yarn is the same as for the self-striping yarn. Is it? Yes, it's the same yarn. It's, again, quite thin. When you look at this in comparison to this opal sock yarn, can you see the difference in size thickness? Yarn thickness? This here, a lot plumper than this up there. So this, again, it's like a 7. I love the gradient. I love how it knit up. I have one more gradient set of theirs. I don't know if they're still in business or not. I bought this yarn a long time ago. I think it turned out really, really pretty. You know, the gradient in itself. Like I said, I have one more gradient. I had one skein of self-striping. And I'm going to knit the second gradients that I have probably soonish. And then I will have knit up everything I have from this yarn dyer. So that is it. These are all of my finished socks, my short little review of the yarns and of the needles. And yeah, now I need to knit another 11 socks because, you know, I had 13. That's one pair done, makes 11 left. And I am not going to do it like I did for the first round, you know, knit all the cuffs and knit all the legs and everything. I'll just pick one, finish that and finish them off like this. So I hope you all have a wonderful time. If you're interested in seeing how I close my toes, I did this with this pair, so I can show you 2 different ways. And that is up on my Patreon. If you're interested in my Patreon, let's do a little bit of self-advertising here. It is €3 a month for all the content that I put up. There's no you pay more, you get more, because I think if you want to learn, you should be able to, and €3 a month is really not a whole lot of money. So if you're interested, check my Patreon out. I talk about knitting, spinning, sewing, weaving, baking, cooking, nutritionist stuff in general, sustainability, my brain. There's a lot of, what do I call it? Keeping it real, I think. And that is all just things that are happening inside my head. And there's talk about books and, you know, if you're interested, check it out. Like I said, it's €3 a month for all the content, so it's not going to break the bank. And yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful time. I will talk to you again soon, and until then, bye.